an increasing number of people have dementia, Alzheimer's in their latter years, and even younger years these days.
Right.
And their brains degenerate, and they seem to change, and they're different.
Right.
It's the question of dementia,
Right.
Christianity. Who is the person?
Boring. I'm hooked. Let's hear it.
All righty.
A good illustration of it is the great influence in my life was a man named Dr. Charles Feinberg. Dr. Feinberg, I've told you about him in the past. He was my mentor and my teacher in seminary, and he was extremely brilliant. He knew about 30 languages, and he had studied to be a rabbi and was converted to Christ and wrote many books and knew the Bible, and he was the most profound theological mind that I ever came across, just an astonishing man. He, at the end of his life, was struck with dementia also, and he thought he was an unconverted Jew. He had been an unconverted Jew, but he had become a believer in Jesus Christ and the president of a seminary, training men and writing books on, particularly on messianic portions of the Old Testament. They said that while he was in whatever facility he was in at the end of his life, he didn't remember that he was a Christian, but he kept calling faculty meetings like he was still the head of a seminary. So all we can say about that is that he was as much in the care of Christ in those hours when he lost the ability to reason as ever he was when he had his complete reason intact. His salvation was not tied to how his brain functioned. His salvation was tied to the grace and the goodness of God, and it was manifest in the time that he was reasonable. And when that went away, it didn't affect that salvation, although it certainly put the process of sanctification on hold.
We have an answer in Genesis. Oh, I can't believe I said that. Now I need to send a royalty fee to Ken Ham. What does Genesis teach us about our brains? Much. We're created in the image of God. The invisible God created a physical universe with physical people to be his image bearers, to make them dichotomous people. That's right, we're not a trichotomy. We have a soul and a body. That's it. And the way that these two are linked is through the organ called the brain, which raises a question. Are you your brain? The answer is no. It's your soul. That's you. That's what's going to go to Jesus, and then you'll be reunited with your physical body. But until that time, we've got the two of them together. And Genesis teaches us that this organ that God created to connect the physical and the spiritual, which includes the process of sanctification, it's broken. It's busted. It's fallen. Now, how does that help us if you happen to be worried about somebody you know who has the dreaded disease of Alzheimer's? They maybe are even more dramatically changed than the doctor that Dr. MacArthur was describing. They sang about Jesus for 60 years. Now they're profane and they're cursing and they're vulgar. And you might be inclined to ask, whoa, is that the real them, the subconscious them? And the answer is no, because you are not your brain. God didn't save our brains. He saved you. He saves our souls. And when the brain gets busted and it deteriorates and it causes somebody to not be of sound mind, don't grieve. Don't be sad about them. They aren't revealing their true self. Their soul is their true self.